We're going to talk to John Amato. He's the founder of crooksandliars.com, of course. And we're going to do something fun and different here because that's what we like to do on the show. Instead of me interviewing John, John is going to interview me. How you like them apples? John, how are you, man?
How you doing, Cenk? How you been, my friend?
Excellent, excellent.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to just start, and we'll have a dialogue more than anything else. But, you know, there's a lot of people that are talking about your Wolf-PAC. And there's a lot of people that have obviously been caught up in the Occupy movements and police brutality and other issues. So I wanted to talk to the readers and listeners that would like another, you know, sort of bullet point of what the Wolf-PAC is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, John, Wolf-PAC is to get a constitutional amendment passed that takes away corporate personhood and does public financing of elections, because that is the #1 issue. I don't even think there's any other issue, because we can't win on any other issue until we get our politicians to stop taking donor money. 94% of the senators that have more money, or candidates that are going for Senate, win those elections. Money is the determinative factor. So we've lost our democracy. We have taxation without representation. And the reason is that they're representing their donors, which is the logical thing to do if you're getting paid. So we have to fix the system. I think the way to do it is an amendment. Unfortunately, there's only 2 paths to an amendment, and one is through Congress, which is institutionally corrupt. So that leaves us with only one choice, which is to go state by state and call for a constitutional convention for that amendment. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with Wolf-PAC.
Well, I think it's a really bold initiative. And I think, obviously, for progressives and liberals and Democrats alike, we are just sickened by the amount of money that's previously to the Citizens United, ruling that has just flowed in and corrupted our whole democracy. And now with this egregious ruling of Citizens United, it's further corrupted our system and swayed the balance of the electorate back, even farther to the elites, into that almost 0.1% that kind of dictate who gets elected by the amounts of money that they can raise and what bills to get passed, as we've seen with the we're not even talking about the bailouts. Let's just talk about that absurd bankruptcy bill that lobbyists wrote. So I think this is a really bold initiative. And so now, what are the first steps that you've taken?
Right. So what we decided was the most important thing was to get to do this state by state, because we're not interested in theory. And, you know, people talk about education campaigns. Those are really important. But I feel that the American people already get it. I mean, look at the momentum of Occupy Wall Street, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to actually get it done. And the way you get it done is you pressure those state legislatures to call for a convention. So that's why we've asked for volunteers, and already we've got over 3,500 volunteers. We've got at least one volunteer in every state. We've got hundreds of volunteers in some of the larger states like New York and California, and they're ready to go. If they need to occupy the state houses, they're going to do it. If they need to pressure their legislatures in other ways, and including saying, hey, listen, if you don't vote with us on this, there's going to be a political price to pay. I mean, that's why it's Wolf-PAC, and we're coming for them, because we've got to go and get 2/3 of the states to call for the convention, and then after the convention, and when we have the amendment in our hands, we need 3/4 of the states to ratify. We want to actually get this done. So, look, other than the volunteers, we're, of course, also asking for donations to set up the infrastructure so we can organize all of those volunteers. You can do all of that through wolf-pac.com.
Excellent. And yes, our readers know about it, about how you do successful actions through our Blue America PAC. And, I just took a simple idea a couple of weeks ago, and not to start some big funder, but to just show solidarity with the protesters. And our solidarity pizza, or, hashtag occupies, we've raised over $25,000 and sent hundreds of pizzas to 42 cities around the country. So, but people need to know this, and they will donate, because it does take resources to get something, especially the magnitude that you're asking for. It takes resources to get started, to hire people, to help even just with logistics. So if people are out there, if you have $2, if you have $1, if you have $5 or $10, this is a good cause to take that extra cash, instead of renting a movie, throw it into the PAC, because that's how we build momentum. It's slow. Now, let me ask you a question also. Have you thought of any other actions? Obviously, you have to get this thing set up. And a Constitution amendment is going to take a lot of work. So have you thought of, while you're getting volunteers, is there a separate, smaller action that you could focus on to sort of at least pinpoint something? Or at this point, we're just going, we're just working on just building the infrastructure of your PAC?
Right. So let me address a couple of things you brought up. First of all, by the way, the pizzas that you guys are sending to the Occupy movements, when I was at Occupy Wall Street in New York at Zuccotti Park, I heard about Crooks and Liars sending pizzas there. So that's great, and it seems to be really appreciated. Second of all, on the money situation, look, a lot of people are so frustrated. You give money to Democrats, and then what do you get? They wind up, cutting taxes on the rich again, and you wind up losing on all the issues. So forget it. Just actually give it to, whether it's us or anyone else, progressives who are actually going to try to get progressive change done, rather than just hoping the Democrats eventually get around to it. And in this case, by the way, the guy who ran on change is the guy who said the whole system was set up wrong and then didn't introduce any campaign finance reform legislation at all, even when he had a supermajority in the Senate, filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. Now, to your final question, John, on if there's intermediate steps, honestly, no. Because I want to focus like a laser beam on getting this thing done. So we will have people who are doing specific tasks that are outside of the states. So, for example, there'll be a legal department, there'll be a tech department, there'll be an organization department that helps to organize volunteers. But then we're going to get right into the thick of the fight, and we're going to go to those state legislatures and try to swing them. I know it might take a while, but you know what? Everything seems undoable when you first start, right? And I know so many people are saying you can't do it. But look, I mean, all I have is my own experience. And when we started the Young Turks, everybody thought it was undoable. When you started Crooks and Liars, I'm sure no one imagined you'd have the viewers and the readers that you have, right?
Absolutely.
And we, as progressives, we did all these things that were undoable. And we can do this too, as long as we concentrate all of our resources and our time and our energy on the right fight.
I completely agree with you. And our readers and progressives across the country, sometimes like studying history is one of the greatest things that you can do. And I constantly remind our readers and lots of other readers that we reach is that our movement is a nascent movement. The blogosphere, the people started blogging in like 2000, and then 2002 little things started to happen. And 2004, it started to really get ramped up with Howard Dean's campaign. So we have just begun. And, it's taken conservatives, they've been building this for 50 years, right, when Goldwater started, but it wasn't until the real creeps of Grover Norquist and Jack Abramoff and Ralph Reed got involved in that movement conservative ideology that they started to slowly shift Washington to conservative ideals as well as the Beltway media. So, our readers, I tell them all the time, and for your viewers and listeners and when you're on TV, is that, just because we're having setbacks now, this is just normal. We have to keep plugging away, and I think it's brilliant that you're making people aware that Citizens United is a corrupt ruling, that, we need this change. We have to get this money out of our election system because it does. We don't get the right representation, we don't get the right leaders, and then we get people that flip and flop on what they promise and what they do. And the best thing that Americans can do is go out and vote. If we had 75% of the nation that showed up at the polls, I really believe that all the money that these really super rich elites spent wouldn't matter. So I think it's a bold initiative on your part, and I wish you guys luck. And now, who's signed on to it? Do you have any endorsers as far as obviously yourself? I'll tell the reader, who else do you have that's signed on?
Well, it's funny because there's a couple of different ways to approach this stuff, right? So, and I know a lot of groups that before starting their initiatives wanted to make sure that they got this person or that person involved. I thought it doesn't really matter. All I need is the TYT Army and everybody else who cares about this, and the energy and the enthusiasm of the Occupy Wall Street movement, et cetera, et cetera. And that turned out to be right. I'd much rather have 3,500 volunteers than 3 or 4 big endorsers. I'm not saying that because we don't have them. I'm saying that because that's the reality. So a guy who's been working on similar movements is Dylan Ratigan. He's got his Get Money Out campaign, which is awesome. He came out just to support me while I was doing a speech at Zuccotti Park when we first announced it. He sat there for an hour and a half in the rain. He's a great guy, believes in the same exact idea in terms of the amendment, and he's fighting in his own way on it. And then there's been a whole host of people that I can't reveal yet, but we will soon. I don't mean to pull a Herman Cain on it, but that are totally supporting this behind the scenes.
This conversation.
And John, I really appreciate you talking to us about this and you know, letting everybody on your site know about it too, because look, man, it takes all of us to be able to fight together to make sure that we can get this done so we can actually get back to our democracy where our votes matter.
No, absolutely, and you know, and we need this to be fought on you know, so many different levels. Whether it's to try to find the right progressive in a particular candidate and don't fund the blue dog, or you know, sending pizza to occupiers, or sticking up for Scott Olson, or like yourself, you know, telling people we have to get this money out of our system. And you know, I interviewed Jim Hightower down at the Koch brothers protest, and we had a discussion, and he was talking about the same thing, and about the Citizens United ruling, and that how devastating it was long-term for our democracy, and we needed to get that ruling overturned. So I think with what your PAC is doing, it's going to raise awareness, and it's right, you don't need 50 or 100, you know, name endorsers. It'll take on a life of its own. And then, you know, you'll find people will then just say, hey, this is great, you know, and they'll jump on board. But the idea is this is the way you do it with the grassroots. And, you know, I wish you luck with this because this is, a fight worth having. And it doesn't matter if it could take, 6 months, a year, 10 years. It's worth fighting for. And this is a struggle for our democracy. So, hats off to you guys. And all I can say is good luck. And we're there with you.
All right. Thank you so much, John. And for our audience, you can see this interview on crooksandliars.com. And for the folks at crooksandliars.com, I want to thank you guys for watching. And I want to thank John, the founder of the site, for always being on the right side and coming on to do this interview about our Wolf-PAC. Basically for both of our sites and both of our audiences. John, I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Cenk. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.